In this video, we're taking a look at annotation scale, which is a feature that will automatically scale text and dimension text in a model. I mentioned this previously in the advanced text and the advanced dimensioning videos much earlier. Annotation scale allows you to scale existing text in a design. And for example, if you were drawing a metric map with meter working units and with an intended printing scale of 1 to 1000, that is, one master unit on the paper equals 1000 master units in the design. With the 1 to 1000 scale, you would likely place text and dimensions with a text height of 3 meters so that the text would print at a height of 3 meters when the 1 to 1000 scale is applied to the plot. However, if it turns out that the map design must be printed at a scale of 1 to 2000, then all text and dimension text must be changed to a height of 6 meters to print at the 3 millimeters standard height. Now, this is not difficult to do with the text and dimensioning editing tools, but the annotation scale feature will do this for you automatically. It's important to realize that the annotation scale is applied on an individual model basis. Now, however, while annotation scale is available in all models, it is not applied unless the annotation scale lock is on in the place text or the dimensioning tools tool settings windows when placing text or dimensions. Text or dimensions placed without annotation scale on cannot be scaled using this feature. Let me show you what I mean. On the screen you see our standard road layout design. I've changed this model to a metric model with meter master units, and we're going to assume that it's a map. I've placed some text. We see here, this text is 3 meters in height, and I've placed a dimension also with text at 3 meters high. Now, both of these items have been placed with annotation scale lock off. I want you to see the difference between having the annotation scale on and off. I'm going to place some more text and another dimension, this time with the lock on. Go to text first, start the text tool. I have some text already on the clipboard, so all I have to do is just pop that into place with the Control V. Now, this time before I place it, I'm going to change the annotation scale lock, which is off right now, with a default scale of 1 to 1. I'm going to click on the icon to turn that on. And make sure you do that if you're following along. Now I come back and place that text. It's the same height still because I've not reset the scale. So that goes in nicely. And let's place another dimension. Annotation scale is automatically on since I turned it on for text. Let's place that same dimension. Now both the red text have the annotation scale lock on. Now at this point we're told that we need to plot this design at 1 to 2000, not 1 to 1000. So we need to change the text to 6 meters in height from its 3 meters. Now again, keep in mind that this must be done on an individual model basis. So let's open up the models. I'm in the annotation model. I need to change the properties. I can use the Edit Model Properties icon, or I can right-click Annotation and go to Properties. Let's use the icon. Here we see the properties for this particular model. Annotation scale is here. We're at full size right now at 1 to 1, which is how we placed it. So let's click on this list. What we need is a 2 to 1 ratio for our 1 to 2000 text, because we need to double the height of the existing text. We look for a 2 to 1 ratio, and as you can see, there isn't one. There's a 1 to 2.5, which is the reverse of what we need. There is no 2 to 1. So what we'll have to do is use custom. So click on the custom box, and here we see the custom scale. I need a value of 2 in here, so let's delete that and put in 2, and we'll say OK. Now note that it says 6 inch equals 1 foot. I'll get back to that later. So we'll say OK. And let's look at our text height. You'll note that the red text has now changed to twice the height of the black text. So the text which was placed with the annotation scale off has remained the same, whereas the text placed with annotation scale on has doubled in height. Note that the red dimension has changed too in other ways other than simple text height. There's now a bigger gap between the two dimensions. This, of course, is because the text height of a dimension drives several other attributes of dimensions, notably spacing between lines, spacing between dimensions, etc., etc. So a little care is required. And again, I'll be talking about this later. Now, to add a little confusion, let's go back to the models dialog box and look at the settings for our model. And remember I mentioned this 6 inch equals 1 foot, which is popped into place, which is a little strange, but it is showing the design to paper ratio as 2:1 on the pop-out. So why is it showing 6 inch equals 1 foot? Well, this is MicroStation's way of expressing the 2:1 scale. And this is very similar to the way MicroStation looks at plotting scales and how plotting scales are actually set. So in fact, you could have used the 6 inch equals 1 foot scale, which is available to us at the bottom. That would have achieved exactly the same result, but it's not particularly obvious. And again, this is how MicroStation looks at plotting scales. I'm going to dismiss this box. We'll leave that on the screen. And let me give you a different alternative to placing text in this manner. You could have originally placed text in dimensions at a 3mm height in this drawing, which is the expected printed text height. If you did this, you would need to apply a 1:1000 annotation scale for the originally anticipated print scale, which is available in that drop-down list. Or to print it in the 1:2000 scale, you would have to make a custom scale in the drop-down list. Now, on the surface, this method seems to be more efficient, since you don't need to calculate the pre-print text height, as we have done in this example. However, please note that scaling up text and dimensions by any scale factor can cause havoc in a design, especially when text or dimensions are very congested. Use either of these methods with caution and make some test runs before committing to a final scale change. Let me show you again what I mean. I am going to place some more text in this design. I'm going to get rid of this and my 2 dimensions. And this time I'm going to place text with a height of 3mm, not 3 meters. So let's go to Element and Text Styles. Right now I am in 3 meters, which is the default working units. So I need to change this to 0.003, which is now 3mm high. Remember, I'm working in meter master units here. I can dismiss that. I'm going to place some text. I'm going to place the same text, but let's change that to millimeters. Annotation scale lock is on, which I need. And I'm going to place this text right here. Very difficult to see. I'm going to place it very close to this edge. I'm going to place 2 versions of this. The first version has a justification of left center. The second version, I'm going to place a justification with right center. And I'm going to place them very close to each other. There. So they're both placed. Now, if we look very carefully, we'll see the text at 3mm height, each with a different orientation. I'm going to zoom right out. Going to go back to my models dialog box. Going to go to annotation, going to go to properties. With annotation, we're going to change this now to 1:1000, which was the original plotting scale. So I'm going to go to 1:1000, need to move that up, find my 1:1000 scale, which is going to scale my text up by a factor of 1000. We'll say OK. And look what's happened. I have my 2 text strings. There's 1, there's 2. This is the left justified text. This is the right justified text. What I'm trying to show you here is what happens when you scale from the 3mm height. Imagine lots and lots of text strings all over this drawing, all placed supposedly at best advantage in relation to the drawing. scaling up this way makes quite a mess of the text placement. And again, in a congested design, this could be pretty disastrous. Now, the same would go, of course, if you edited each piece of text. And what you're going to have to do is be very, very careful in text placement if you intend to use annotation scale in a drawing such as this. Now, clearly, the right justified text worked best in this situation, whereas the left justified text went right across our drawing elements. So again, as I mentioned, very careful placement of text with careful justification is really important.